Andromeda's Edge. A long-abandoned sector littered with the remnants of the precursor civilization. Ancient technology and forgotten secrets are waiting to be rediscovered. But many starships have journeyed here and vanished. Only the especially brave or foolish would try to settle in these parts. Which are you? Had to find that blurb from the Game Found. The book and back of box one is not as good, but that's a pretty 3-boing thing right there. I don't know why they didn't use it.
Today on the Board Boys,
Andromeda's Edge. Shoo, shoo, shoo. That's kind of the sounds I imagine the spaceships make when they fight, right?
Don't they make no sounds because it's in space?
No, this space has sound. This is science fantasy.
How many boings is the name Andromeda's Edge?
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. 2.5. What do you guys think?
1.5.
I think it's a 2 name.
Yeah? I don't know. I remember it. Andromeda's. Actually, no, I don't remember it because when I came in here, I was like, I haven't played Andromeda's Edge yet. And they're like, yeah, you have. So never mind. 2 boings.
hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 15, Episode 9. Tonight on the docket, Andromeda's Edge. This is your Board Boy, Space Cowboy Rob.
You weren't going to do that?
That I was not what I was going to do.
You're not a space cowboy?
Nope.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I like Cowboy Bebop, but that was not where I was going.
All right. We'll call Jefferson Starship TK.
This is do everything you can to get Tim as many points as possible, Jake.
And this is your boy, Planetary Cam. Interplanet Camet.
It's pretty good.
The Anus of Uranus. That's a song by Klaatu. The
we
alien's
listened to
name
it
is
tonight.
Anus. It's not. I don't think it's supposed to be totally disgusting. That's the name of the alien in the song.
Yeah, Jake, I don't think I could have stolen your name this week because I would not have tried to give Tim all my points.
Well, I mean, you kind of gave Tim a lot.
I mean, that's true. We'll get into that a little bit later. We actually played the team variant of Andromeda's Edge this evening, so I'm trying to think. Maybe only the second time we played a team game on the podcast. Star Wars Rebellion is the last one I can think of, unless you're going to count one versus many, but that's not really teams because that's one versus many. Campbell, what's your favorite sci-fi? I don't know anything.
Like my favorite sci-fi IP, like just in general, or
yeah,
my
sure.
favorite sci-fi. Because like, if you're gonna ask me off the top of my head, what's your favorite sci-fi anything?
Leprechauns in Space.
Leprechauns in Space is probably what it is.
Okay, I mean, that's fine.
No, actually, I would have to say this is a difficult question because there's a lot of video games I like that are space-based, but I think if you can count RimWorld, I love that because it's a you crash on a planet colony. But if we're talking specifically space, it's a video game called FTL.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've heard of that.
RimWorld being the video game.
RimWorld, the video game. Yeah.
Not Ringworld, the book.
Not RingWorld, the book.
Yeah.
No.
Or Ringworm, the skin problem.
Not Ringworm, the skin problem. No. Nope. Definitely no. I think so. Let's say FTL because it's about being in space and space combat. And
FTL does rule.
And that's like one of the coolest video games. Have you guys all played FTL?
I have.
I have not.
The question, Cam, though, is how many playlists have you created based on FTL, the video game?
0, but I have created.
Is it your favorite space IP then?
Oh, yeah. I guess there's Twilight Imperium. I was not thinking board games because we're doing a space board.
Well, that's
game.
a role-playing game now too, right? Aren't they making a TV show out of it too, or something?
I
like
have
that?
no idea. I mean, yeah, it's got all kinds of stuff.
I like FTL better than Twilight Imperium, though.
Yeah,
No,
I can see that.
I'm kidding. It's a joke. I do love Twilight Imperium.
FTL is hard.
FTL is very hard. In fact, I've never actually beaten it on the normal difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
When they say you should play on, I can beat it on the easy difficulty almost every time, but it's hard. It's a real time strategy game where you have a crew of people in a spaceship, and then like it's got like a real time thing where you're like firing off like it's like you're kind of like a Star Trekky thing where you're like moving your guys around the ship to like operate different like modules of the ship. Like, oh, if you go have a dude and like hanging out in this shields room, your shields regenerate faster. And then you can like pause it to like go give your guys commands, like where to go and stuff to do. And then it's like one of the first games I've ever played in like the roguelike fashion where you have like a map and then you choose like the route you're going to take. And, which is neat too. Cause like before that, I think like most roguelike games I played were just like dig deeper into a dungeon and play that level. So I think they were the first ones that like kind of dealt with like hey, here's maybe the reward and the risk for going to this area. There's probably something before that, but it's had a huge effect on roguelike games now, like Slay the Spire and Hades and stuff like that. So anyway, FTL. What are your guys' favorite space IP? Twilight Imperium?
I mean, I probably have a billion, so I don't know. I mean, do you want to talk about books, or you want to talk about books?
Talk about whatever you want. I spent a minute on FTL.
I just finished The Expanse. That was very good. It got significantly better, I thought, towards the end of the book. I don't know if the end of the book series.
I played the board game way back in the day, based off the TV show. So how many books was The Expanse?
9 books.
Whoa.
Well, so okay, sorry. It's 9 real books, like normal books, and there's like 9 other, call it 0.5s, that are in between some of the other books.
So there's 18 books.
Yeah, there might even be more than that. I don't know. Does Dark Tower count? That'd probably be my favorite. It's like a sci-fi fantasy.
But Dark Tower's in space, right?
Dark Tower's not. I guess we were talking about space.
Yeah, we were talking about space.
Not just
I like
sci-fi.
Dark Tower, man. I've read all Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Well, I read all the real Dark Tower. There was like side stuff for that too, right?
I didn't really love Foundation. I thought it was mediocre, which I think everybody really likes.
I like the show.
Yeah.
I heard the book is boring.
I mean, it's got like also 10 books or whatever it is. So,
but that wasn't from Jared that told me that. So
yeah. I don't know. I like Wiener Vinge. He's got three pretty good books. I don't know. And continue to list them off if you guys want.
More.
We want more books.
More.
More
as
sci-fi
far as
books.
books, I really liked Rising, Red Rising.
Right, I haven't read that one.
Does that count as space books? Kinda, right?
I mean,
Do they go
it's
to
it's
different
about
planets
like
and
it's sci-fi for
Yeah.
sure.
As someone that has read almost basically all of the like giant fantasy or sci-fi like book series,
Wheel of Time?
I have not. That's fantasy though.
Oh, okay.
So
That's my favorite fantasy series.
I
besides
I
Lord of the Rings.
cannot
Star
get-
Wars?
Well, Star Wars is oddly enough. I mean, it's sci-fi, but people also call it fantasy because reasons. But I mean, obviously, I'm a Lord of the Rings, Star Wars stan. I really don't care about Star Trek at all. But if you want to put all those past me, the sci-fi IP that I probably like the most, besides the big main ones, is Stargate SG-1.
Yeah. Okay.
I freaking have all those box set DVDs. I watched that so much during college. I was never much into I could never get into Doctor Who, or any of those. But Stargate, I don't know. It was something about that one. I really liked it. Even all the offshoots, like the whole world they put together. Plus, it had MacGyver. So
I'm not a big space guy. I mean, I don't ever see something space and think, "Oh, I'm not interested in that." It just never really seems to reach that level of me being super into it. I really, really enjoyed the game Jet Force Gemini on N64, but video games, movies, TV series, books. There's none that really stand out a ton for me that are space. But I mean, my favorite genres of books are like fiction and contemporary fiction and historical fiction. So those don't really align with that. So.
oh, you old history teacher, you.
Yep. As long as they are, kind of melancholy and depressing, that's usually my jam. So,
Have you read War and Peace?
I have not read War and Peace.
Okay.
I think that might be a book that's at my house though, so I should dive in. Yeah.
This dude says he's a historical fiction, depressing book guy, and he hasn't read War and Peace.
Haven't read that one.
It just makes me laugh at the joke because in Seinfeld they say that
I was going to bring it up.
the original title for War and Peace was War. What is it good for?
And Elaine believes Jerry, and then she says it to the Russian author.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Are you stupid?"
He's like, you told him. Oh, it's so funny. All right, well, this is a board game podcast. Let's talk about some board games. My lineup tonight is going to be all Halloween games because I played Halloween games at the end of the month. I got a bunch of other stuff in the chute, and I don't know what I'm going to do. There'll be a big BGG Con roundup coming up, probably the next episode, or maybe I'll throw out another bonus one. I don't know, but Halloween is where it's at today, and I'm going to talk about 2 different games called Halloween.
Yeah, one is about Halloween
Boom.
and one is about the IP.
Yeah,
Halloween.
so the first one I'm going to talk about is Halloween. Spoiler, I like this one more than the other one. It's called Halloween. It came out in 2023. 2 to 4 players, best at 4, by Emerson Matsuuchi and Trick or Treat Studios. You play as Michael Myers and stalk the other players in this hidden movement game. It's a hidden movement game, which I love. We ended up playing a bunch of hidden movement games last Tuesday. I think I found my tribe of hidden movement players at Dungeons Gate for Tuesdays, so hopefully we'll be able to throw some more of those into the mix. Halloween is 1 versus many, so 1 Michael versus 3 teenagers, and the teenagers are trying to go to these 4 different houses, and in each of the decks are 2 sets of keys to these locked cars and 2 kids. You got to get a set of keys, you got to get the 2 kids, and you got to get out of there. Depending on the player count, Michael has to kill so many of you. If you die, you're not out of the game, though. You come back in the game as either Dr. Loomis or the sheriff, and you come in guns a-blazing. You can also win by killing Michael Myers, which, spoiler alert, we did that for the first time on Tuesday. Felt pretty good. My favorite part of the game is, if you've ever played Emerson Matsuuchi's other game, the not Sniper Elite. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of it now. Shadow. Hold, please.
Spectre Ops?
Thank you. Spectre Ops. If you played Spectre Ops, it's the same thing where like you can only kind of see in front of you. And while they're moving, like if you walk in front of them, they'll see you. But the whole thing is if Michael gets interrupt attack turns, so your goal as Michael is to sneak up and stand somewhere where you think they're going to walk into you. And then as soon as because you're not like, I'm just going to move here to here, and that was my 5 movement or whatever. You walk 1 space at a time, and as soon as you hit that space, you're like, stop, and you drop Michael on the board. And then, like, I don't know. It's not scary, but it's super fun when that happens, or like when you get them. And the other cool part is at the end of your turn, all the standees have little arrows, and that's the way you're pointing or looking. And that matters which way you're actually facing. So it's always a fun decision of like, which way do I turn? And Michael has some cool different abilities where like he can stalk, and in a straight line, he can just move as far as he can in a straight line. Or for one action, he can walk through the hedge that like nobody else can walk through because, you know, he walks through hedges. Anyway, super thematic, plays in under an hour, great hidden movement game, very simple rule set. I like it a lot.
How do you like that one in comparison to Stifling Dark? Because I know you were super into that one last year about this time.
I mean, Stifling Dark is way more convoluted, but it's cool. Like, I want to play Stifling Dark some more, especially now that I kind of got the rules down on it. And, like, there's different scenarios. That one's cool because it's got different scenarios and can play out differently every time. Halloween is not a game I'm going to play, like, multiple times a year. Like, I'm probably going to play it in October when it comes around because, one, I'm going to remember how to play it. And two, like, it kind of does what it does, right? There's definitely, it's not going to play out super differently. There's some dice rolling, but ultimately it's kind of the same game every time. So there's not a ton of replayability there, but for how quick it plays, it's a great game.
My kid still talks about our Halloween play and all of us dying. So
yeah.
A year later, yeah.
Yeah, that's, I mean, and like Bo can play.
Yeah.
Like, this is a pretty easy, like I say family game, you know, it's Halloween, the horror movie, but as long as your kids are old enough to kind of understand that part of it, like, I don't know, how old's Remy?
He was 7 at the time.
And he played it just fine.
He was he loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other Halloween game I want to play, or I want to talk about, is Halloween by Quinted Games. This one has been out since 2017. It's one I always wanted to play, and I remember seeing it on Kickstarter, and I ended up picking it up at the virtual flea market last year. And basically, you play a bunch of ghosts running around, trying to scare all the people and get scare points. And the game ultimately is just about kind of comboing into stuff. I don't know. Ultimately, I think the play just fell a little flat for us, and it's getting sold at this virtual flea market. So I would say that version of Halloween by Quinted Games just missed the mark for our whole group. I think everyone was pretty much done with it by the time we were done playing. So, unfortunately, that Halloween game did not cut the mustard. So much so that I can't even remember even that much more to explain it to you guys right now. It was kind of that unmemorable. Sorry, Quinted Games.
All right, I got one. I played a game called We're Sinking, which was pretty interesting. One of our friends from Tuesday night brought it. So basically, you are semi-cooperatively working together to not have your ship sink, and the ship is got this cool kind of toy factor. I don't know if you saw it. You didn't see it. I don't think you were there. Okay. It's got a cool toy factor rubber kind of ship thing that stacks together, and basically as it sinks, you take the bottom off of it, so it looks like it's sinking down in the water. Essentially, what you're doing is you're running through a turn sequence, which is basically check how much water do you have. If you have too much water, you move the bottom of the boat, and a bunch of bad things happen. And then you kind of walk through a couple of things. There's a monster that will attack you, which basically adds more damage to your ship, damage to your cannons, things like that. And then you choose an action secretly in this little wheel, and then you put it on what's be the 4 action columns publicly. So you have 2 things. So I'm putting my action on, say I'm going to bail out water, and I put my dial on there, and then everybody puts them out, and you flip them over. And if I put my pail on the pail, then I do the pail action. Otherwise, I can be like a trader and do a different action and go steal treasure or something like that. So there's a little bit of give and take there. The reason that is kind of important is that if you sink, the person with the least amount of cards wins the game. If you kill the monster, the people with the most treasure in their hand wins the game. So you might want to say, I'm going to bail stuff out, but then you're going to go secretly get treasure or something like that. I thought it was really interesting. It was pretty fun. It took 45 minutes to play. There's a bunch of different monsters. It looks really cool on the table. I'd suggest giving it a shot. It was from Joseph Frederick, and the publisher was Ludimus Games. So it's called We're Sinking. I thought it was a good time. I mean, I lost horribly because I was going to try to make a sink and have 1 card left. I did not make a sink. They went and killed the monster, and the 3 of them won instead of me. So,
oops. So it's semi-co-op?
Yeah. So kind of they ended up winning together because they all kind of tied their points
in
their hand or whatever. But kind of, you're trying to do the thing that you want, whether sink or not, and then from there it depends on what you got in your hand. So. That's it. We're sinking.
I don't know if I have one this time. I've played several games, but that I don't think I've played anything that I haven't talked about on this podcast. I'm sure I've played new ones on Board Game Arena, but nothing really worth mentioning. I challenged Jordan from Australia to a game of Auntie Mildred's Lists of Random Tasks, because it looked like the weirdest game ever to come to. It's like a self-published dice roller game that's kind of like Yahtzee, and you're trying to win your Auntie Mildred's will, or you're trying. Well, I think the thing is she makes the best chocolate chip cookies, and she still had some cookies remaining after passing away or something like that. So you're trying to go get cookies. I can't really remember, but I just want to mention it because we played 2 games of it, and Jordan can chime in on the Discord, but it was pretty bad. It was basically like if Yahtzee was worse, and also a competitive game. It was good ideas behind it. It's like you're throwing out Yahtzee hands to try to battle the other person, and then there's a list of where you can put your dice permanently to gain abilities. But the problem was you don't really have enough dice for it to be meaningful, and the game ends too quickly for doing anything but trying to build the best hands really quickly. So that's Auntie Mildred, and I'm just talking about it because the name was really funny. Auntie Mildred's List of Random Tasks.
But it's terrible.
It's really bad. It's on Board Game Arena. I don't know if it's actually... There might be a pen and paper version of it, but I think maybe the guy just designed it and put it on BGA. So kudos to that guy. That's awesome of him to put out a game for free. I never want to bite the hand that feeds or look a gift horse in the mouth or whatever, but...
I think that's 2 completely different games if it's Auntie Mildred or Auntie Mildred. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm Auntie Mildred.
Okay. That's all I could think of the whole time you were saying that was are you against Mildred or are you family?
Hang on, do you say aunt or aunt?
My aunt.
Yeah, aunt.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Just for some reason in my brain that was triggering.
Yeah, there you go.
Jake, you got one?
Nobody says aunt.
Aunt.
I mean, I'm sure other
unless,
dialects.
unless you're
of English do.
fancy.
I looked at my recent plays, and the last game that I played was Botanicus when we did the podcast, so I do not have anything to contribute.
All right, well then that leaves some room for me because I have
Yeah, here he
two
goes.
more Halloween games. One is called Monsters on Board, and you guys need to play this game.
Nope.
It doesn't even matter if it's Halloween or not. They need to reprint this game, first of all. This was only on Kickstarter. This game is so fun. It's very easy to play. It's almost all simultaneous actions, and it's got cool little monsters. It is by Final Frontier Games, and it's got some crazy designer names that I'm not going to pronounce right now from 2022. Our boy Chris Yee loves this game. I watched a video with him in it, I think, and that's what made me hunt this down and find it at the flea market. And basically you just play over so many rounds, and you basically draft dice, and then you use those dice to move monsters around the board, activating abilities, and then you activate the symbols that were on your dice, and then you fill up these rows with dice on it, and then you're trying to score based on some different patterns you have, like for end game cards. You're also trying to get more monsters, and you're just trying to zoot all your monsters to the end. Then there's you can buy tokens that go on the board to make your monster actions even better, and there's end game goal cards you can buy as well with your points, and your points are called spook juice. So
Yeah, probably.
Spook juice.
Like, no.
Bro.
You should not call anything spook
Yeah,
juice.
it's
Stop.
spook juice.
No, that's...
Anyway, we played it
Disgusting.
on Tuesday or 2 Tuesdays ago. Everybody loved it. I mean, it's a 2.5 boinger for me for sure. And it's got a family mode. I don't think you have to play
there's
the
no
family
family mode
mode.
with spook juice, dude.
Come on, man.
That's sugar-free spook juice.
Anyway, I think you guys would enjoy this game, no matter what Tim says.
I mean, any game with spook juice, I'm in.
The last one I want to talk about is from Blue Orange Games. It is called Shadow House Masquerade. It's 3 to 8 players, ages 8+. And I guess this originally was published by Emperor S4 Games. It is like the super quickest hidden role card game thing ever. So you basically look in the booklet, depending on how many players, so many of these cards are put in, and then you shuffle in X amount more cards. And whoever has the first on the scene card is the first player, and they play it. And oh no, the Viscount is dead. We need to figure out who killed the Viscount. So there's one card out there that is the culprit. And the rule book is really convoluted and kind of hard to understand how and who wins the game. But what you just have to know, if someone figures out who the culprit is by saying, hey, do you have the culprit card? And they show you the culprit card, they get 2 points, and everyone else that wasn't an accomplice gets a point. If the culprit can hold the culprit card till the end of the round, they get to play it, and they basically get 2 points, and any accomplices get a point. And there's a couple other wacky cards that do other things. Then a lot of the other cards are pass cards, trade cards, swap cards. So it's a lot of who's got what, where, and when. So it's not like, hey, you're the culprit for sure the whole time. That it could change throughout the round for who is the culprit. It plays like a hand, plays in like 2 or 3 minutes, and you play to 5 points. So the game's like less than 15 minutes total. I didn't have a lot of, it's very, very random perhaps because you could just totally get hosed every time. But I played this with a ton of kids, and they've all had a blast with it, and they were able to really understand it. So Shadow House Masquerade, I'm guessing it's got to be a pretty low price point too. I would go check it out. It's a real small box. It's a deck of cards and some tokens.
Tight.
Yeah.
That's so cool that Halloween happened. Hey, yeah.
Only 11 more months, and we'll be back again.
You guys know what's happening before this episode releases? The youngest board boy, me, is turning 40. So
You're not the youngest. board
yeah,
boy.
yeah, I definitely am. So shut up about that. And so now we'll all be over 40, including Jake. So
Maybe not physically, but everybody's over 40 emotionally, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like a 70-year-old man
Yeah, yeah.
emotionally, but
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about this before. Am I the oldest one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but not you're just like a year younger.
Yeah,
than
I mean,
me, right?
yeah.
I think we're all like a year, then a year, then a year, and then Jake's like 7 years younger than us or
I'm
something like that.
37. I'm not that much younger than all of you.
Oh boy, I forget how old I am now.
It doesn't matter.
Time is a construct.
Yeah.
Well, you were born in 1982, right?
That's correct.
And Tim was born in 1983.
83, yep.
And I was born in 1984.
Yep.
At the very end of 1984. So actually, I'm really young.
And I was born in 1987.
At the very end of it.
So is my wife. You're the same age as my wife.
My brother
My
was
wife.
born in 1985.
There you go.
We got like right down the line.
Yeah, so is mine.
Really?
So was mine.
So how many siblings do you have?
I have 2. Older brother and younger sister.
Okay. I just have the one younger brother.
I have three siblings. Can you beat that?
No, just one.
Take it home.
Got him.
Take it home.
Are you the youngest?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay.
Yep, and there's an 8-year spread between the four of us.
Woo!
So it's me and then 4 years, then 1 year, then 3 years. So there's 8-year spread. But the interesting thing is between us and all of our spouses, that it's like a ladder like we were just talking, like, so like 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, and then my youngest brother's wife breaks the chain because she's like 3 years younger than him. So
Well, the difference between Ellie and Bo is 23 years.
wow, that's pretty cool though for like 7 people to like all be born in
Yeah.
like the consecutive year. So
All right. Well, tonight on the podcast, we played Andromeda's Edge.
2 boing name, 1.5 boing name.
1 point name.
What would be a good name for this game? I got one.
Dwellings of Eldervale in space.
Well, I was gonna say
It's pretty good.
space colonies of planetary veil. Oh, that's actually a 1 point name.
Starting up again. Andromeda's Edge.
Yeah,
I
good
got
jo-
it this time,
good,
guys.
Good luck.
Andromeda's Edge. Factions clash on the edge of the galaxy. It is by Cardboard Alchemy. It is by Luke and Maximus Lori. The art is by Sergio Chavez. It re-implements Dwellings of Eldervale, which we've done on the podcast before. It is currently 8.5, good for a rank of 849th overall. It jumped up there pretty quick, Timbo.
Yeah, it did. It is very high.
It came out on 2024. It's 2 to 4 players. With the expansion, it's 2 to 5 players. It's best at 3, 80 to 160 minute playtime, ages 14 plus. Weight is 3.6 out of 5. I'm going to go over how you play Andromeda's Edge on the high point. Basically, we are all going out there, deploying our ships, gathering resources, trying to build buildings, gather more resources, battle each other, battle these invaders that are coming out on the board. You're going to do that by like launching your ship, and then your ships have different ranges, and then you can come off of that main ship. If there's 2 ships in a region, there will be a battle. If there are raiders on the board that are within their range, they will strike at you and try to attack you as well. When you activate a region, if it's a planet, you're just taking a moon off of it, which you can use as resources or to put on your board or a card to activate over and over again later. Or there's the main, I can't remember the name for them, but like the main action spots on the board where you just do the action on the space.
Alliance
They're
bases?
the Alliance bases. That's right. So you're either doing that, or you're returning all your ships back to your board and activating modules that you've kind of built on your sideboard and doing all kinds of cool combo wombo-y stuff. And you can use energy to do that as well. There's a few free actions you can do. Battle has a cool mechanism where you can win the battle really with 1 dice if you roll 6 and nobody else does. It's the same battle mechanism as Dwellings of Eldervale, where you just look at the highest dice and the next highest and so on. The ships have all kinds of different abilities. There's tactics cards that can break the game and change rules in various ways and let you do cool stuff. And there's these cool 3D plastic development buildings you can build on the board and score a ton of points that way. The game ends once you hit a trigger of either 50, 60, or 70 points, depending on how long a game you're playing. And then you go through a bunch of scoring. And if you're like us, tonight you play the 2v2 team variant, which is an option. So let's talk about that and more when we come back from the break.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's get to the table and come back with our thoughts. Sorry, I tried something different. On Dwellings of Elder
No,
Vale.
I think it was.
I
think it's a great shot.
Andromeda's Edge.
I mean, planetary.
Intergalactic planetary.
Intergalactic planetary. That video, Beastie Boys videos are good.
They're so
The
good.
Intergalactic video is, I think, one of the most memorable videos of the 1990s, right? I mean, that one's really good. Because, like, there were ones that were better, like, maybe Sabotage, too. But like,
I remember Sabotage more than I do.
Yeah, I don't know. Because to me, like, Sabotage is more, like, a little more hipster, but I think the Intergalactic video is like super mainstream, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Ill Communication, I think I like that album more than Hello Nasty for sure.
Ill Communication is one of my favorite albums of
I
all
think
time.
it goes from me, Paul's Boutique, Ill Communication, BC Boys, Check Your Head, Hello Nasty. Don't care about the rest.
No, Ill Communication, License to Ill.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Let's call it Beastie Boys.
Yeah, License to Ill, Paul's Boutique, Hello Nasty.
Paul's Boutique is number 3.
Yeah.
Man, you think for yourself. That's
Yeah.
That's yours is a your way is you're your own person.
I am.
That's-
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a normie in that regard because I think most people consider Paul's Boutique to be really the best.
Ill Communication is one of my top 5 albums of all time.
Ah, it's so good.
Like,
yeah.
I think every single song on there is a banger, even the ones that everybody hates.
One more album comment. I just realized today that Alphabetical by Phoenix is 20 years old this year.
No way.
And that's, to me, I think Alphabetical by Phoenix may be the oldest album that still seems like it just came out to me.
Wild.
It's so good. That whole album, front to back. Are you guys Phoenix fans? You guys are both Phoenix fans, I bet.
I do like Phoenix.
It's all right. Yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nani? That's for Jake, who said he's an anime fan a second ago. He said you like Cowboy Bebop. He said you really like anime.
I do like Cowboy Bebop.
Because you like anime.
Yeah.
I would say, other than Dragon Ball Z, that's the only other. Oh, Gundam Wing. I like Gundam Wing too. Those would probably be it.
And what else?
Those might be the only 3 animes I know.
And
All right, we're back. Let's hit it with the initial thoughts on Andromeda's Edge. Campbell, you forgot you played this game. Why don't you hit me first?
I didn't forget that I played this game. I forgot the name of it. I do remember playing this game. When Rob said, "Hey, we're going to play like the spiritual sequel, same designers, pretty much the same game, to Dwellings of Elder Vale, but it's in space," I was cautiously optimistic because I thought Dwellings of Elder Vale is super, super fun game. But I thought that some of the stuff in the game seemed kind of arbitrary. My immediate reaction after the first play was, I think I like it better, and I'll talk about why in the pros. And I think I like it better still after play 2.
There were many points in that play where Cam hated this game.
Well, I had the rules wrong when I was hating on it. So,
I mean, that's why Cam likes games.
That's true. Usually there needs to be a moment.
But I do like, yeah, remember how much I hate something is like how invested I am in it. So I was very invested in the play.
Cam threw multiple things in this playthrough.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
This is the one we should have streamed.
We should have.
Like, there's a broken chair. Like, there's lots of Legos that are broken.
I got a big, like, Wile E. Coyote lump on my head.
Yeah.
He had to pop a couple extra heart pills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I really raised my blood pressure because these guys killed me in a battle. We played 2-on-2 today.
Yeah. Like, I assume it's because you don't have your top buttons undone on your shirt.
Oh, hang on. There we go.
You feel better now?
Let me get the chain out.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot the chain.
Yeah. This is it.
I need to buy a chain.
All right, Jake, what you got?
My first thoughts were upon opening this to play at Dungeon's Gate. I thought, man, if you don't know what all these pieces are, like, getting this game started would be just a gigantic task. If we wouldn't have had Rob to step in and be like, oh, this goes here and this goes here, like, that would have added an hour to our game, don't you think, for us to...
What I was going to say was I'm very spoiled by Rob just doing the setup for us, and that we had to like kind of half do it and try. We gave it an earnest effort to get like set up on our own, and then we gave up and Rob came over and set it up for us.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, in comparison to Dwellings, this box is bigger. It has more stuff for sure.
Well, there's so much in it that you don't use in any given game.
Well,
that it's
there's
just,
there's modules, but yeah, you guys were like, yeah, we've watched the rules, like we know how to play. I'm like, we got this. I'm like, well, if you need my help, let me know.
Well, I kept being like, Rob, come over, and Tim's like, no, we got it. And I'm like, no, Tim, let Rob help us. So
there's no shame in that.
It's a lot to look at. It's a nice table presence. I'll say that too. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the same thing for me. The first like overwhelmingness of it was getting that thing out on the table and then trying to get it set
I
up.
remember. So for me, I remember liking Dwellings a lot. I wish I played it more. And then I asked Dungeons Gate if they were going to kickstart this one because I was like, this is a pretty popular game. I'll buy it from you if you do it. And then this game took forever to come out. I mean, like, it was probably 2 years late, maybe. I feel like that was how long it was. Maybe I'm wrong. It was definitely over a year, though. And so by the point I was going to get it, I'm like, I don't really care anymore. I kind of just got like... But I'm like, I told them I'd buy. I mean, they could have sold it to anybody, right? But I went in there and I snagged it up, and we'll find out if I was happy about that decision.
You want to start with the pros? I can.
Yeah, I mean, the first pro for me is in this edition that I have, the production value is off the charts. Even the storage solution for it is very good. It's not really hard to put it back in the box.
once you've done it, and they do have a nice visual that you can look at, that made a big difference when it. And I mean, it's just one of those things where the box is very designed to fit the specific parts that jut out, and it comes together really nice, and it shuts easy, which is always favorable.
One thing I wish people that were like, as they're like, I love the organizer stuff. I wish that they would think more about how you put it out than like just how everything kind of, Tetrises into the box. I think that's like the next evolution of these things, because the actual board for the game is significantly deep inside the box, and that's like the first thing that you like tend to put out. So it's like you're like kind of like taking stuff out and trying to find space on it on the table for it, and then all of a sudden the board comes out and you're like, well, I got to move all this other stuff now again. Get everything out of the way. Then you put the board down. Then you start setting all the other stuff up.
It's not a small board.
You almost need a side table to
or like
handle it.
To figure out a way to get the board on the top of the the organizer and stuff. So I thought that was really weird as we were kind of getting through it. Was just
they're just using it to hold down all the cards and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I think the play rate is really good. It does a nice job of kind of laying out the different phases and what abilities are, where the end game scoring is, the different type of cards, what happens on a turn, the steps in battle. It's nice and concise. It's just one front and back. Sometimes bigger, heavier games really are leaning into giving you like a whole booklet, and that can be a lot to take in. And for what all the things that exist that could happen over the course of a turn in this game, I do think it's a nice reference. It's not hard to find what you're looking for.
Everything in this game makes you feel good when you get it. Like when you get stuff, it feels pretty monumental, I think. And even when you go collect, like take a turn to collect like a resource or something, like you collect resources and they're on these moons, and you can use the moons to greater effect over the course of the game. with certain things you can do, or you can spend them right then for stuff. And like every time you do something, it kind of connects to something else. So like if you buy modules you can do later, you get track bumps that might do something for you now. If you spend a bunch of resources to build a building and give up a bunch of your stuff, you get a card that like gives you a cool like huge action. Everything is just always kind of fun with this one, just like Dwellings of Eldervale. There's a lot of dice chucking. There's a lot of rolls that make people furious, and that's pretty cool. It's neat. I guess I mentioned that I thought something was better than Dwellings of Eldervale in this, and I just want to throw this out there. Dwellings of Eldervale had kind of a more complex building, like not building, but like engine up system, because they're like you like cast spells in the game, and there's like only like I might go back and think it's really neat actually now that I think about it, but like you can only do certain stuff with your like different like mana. Aren't there like a bunch of different resources you have to spend? Like are there like 7 resource types in Dwellings of or like 5 resource types?
I mean, there's a few different ones, just like in this game.
Well, no, but in Dwellings of Eldervale, isn't like don't you have like 6 different colors or something like that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different colors that you.
And
those are like
They're the same as the planets in this game. The scoring,
the 5 tracks.
The scoring in Dwellings is maybe a little more convoluted than it is here.
Yeah.
There's like.
But ultimately, I think I might like the scoring in Dwellings better than this game.
Yeah.
There's the color tracks.
Yeah.
In Dwellings.
But so there's only 5 colors of spells too. Then.
There's like
the spells don't have colors in Dwellings. The spells are either like the spells are pretty much like the action cards in this game, except for they're either good for like end game points or like I'm going to do this thing right now. There's 3 or 4 different types of them, whereas in this game there's like 5 or 6 different types of cards.
Yeah.
The buildings that you build when you pull your guys back, you can put them on them.
The modules.
Yeah, the modules are like in Dwelling.
That kind of replaces those spells things, right?
No, they're not spells. They're something else. Like what that you put down that you put your guys on when you pull them back to do better stuff.
Those are like just the cards, the door cards.
The door
that's what I'm
cards.
talking about. That's what I was calling them spells.
And the door cards are by color. And
Yes.
the colors that are out in the game that match the tiles, because you only use like there's like I don't know if there's 8 colors, you only use 5 of them in a game.
Yeah, you use the number of players plus a couple.
And that is all way more streamlined in this game. There's the tracks that are there that are the certain colors that correspond to the modules. You don't mix and match them depending on the game. You know.
Sure, they're always the same things are always out.
And you can kind of build on to your module system. Using energy to do them. I think you have to have a worker for all of them in Dwellings, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can activate more things that way. I think that's cooler.
Yeah, this game is definitely more Euro-y than Dwellings is. You can do a lot more fidgeting to kind of get where you want to go. I think a pro for me also, just looking at the pictures online, like this game exists in a normal retail version that you're going to be able to buy. And it's like under $60, I think, at least online. And the ships all look like they're the plastic ships that you got in this one. It's just like everything else is just kind of cardboard. But the box is much smaller. And so it's probably maybe a little easier to even put on the table. But it's still got all the cards and all the things. So it doesn't look as cool. But if you want like the gameplay for like a lower price, like Dwellings is a game that they still only print and sell on their website for the most part, or distribute through that because it's just so expensive to put through retail.
Well, Dwellings of Eldervale had like even like the little sound bases that you would put like the enemies on, and you'd like set them down, and they'd go like ah. They were like Pokemon cries from the Game Boy. Like they all sound the same, but they all sound different.
I mean, that is definitely a point for Dwellings.
It was great.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, I kind of like the vibe of it's kind of like Terra Mystica and Gaia Project to me, where I think I like Gaia Project better, but I like the vibe of Terra Mystica more. Even though I'm more of a sci-fi guy than a fantasy guy, I think there's just something like about the Dwellings factions, and like I don't know, like the door cards are annoying to me, but like the idea of them is really cool. And but I think this plays in a more fun way.
See, to me, I feel like the modules are very similar to the door cards. In Dwellings, you score depending on how far you've bumped that particular track up, depending on how many of those hexes you've built on. But then you can only score so many of them based on, I can't remember exactly, but it depends on how many houses you built. You can only score so many of your door cards at the end of the game. That's what it was. So the scoring was kind of wonky and kind of weird, and you kind of had to pump certain things, which you got to do here. I know there's a lot of analogs and similarities, but this game is definitely more. There's more to look at. There's more to do. There's more to think about. There's just as many modules.
The monsters seem way more impactful in this
Yeah,
game.
the monsters seem very interesting.
Well, I mean, they were heavily in this game, but I don't really think they were in our last game. I mean, we just mostly killed them right when they came out, and they didn't really play a role.
I don't know. The Ion Storm just
Okay,
wrecked
well,
us.
that one did, but we were also playing it wrong.
Yeah,
but,
I mean-
but other than that, though, none of them really lived very long. I think this game they were a ton. They just wiped people off the board, and one was just kind of in the middle, which made you couldn't really get away from it. So I think that definitely in this game. So
Well, and Tim was rolling sixes pretty much all night, like
yeah.
like some kind of shark.
We're about to go make a lot of money after this podcast. I don't remember the Dwellings monsters being like relevant at all, really. So
I think I just remember them being really hard to beat, but not detrimental to the things that you were trying to do for the most part.
Yeah, they rolled a lot of dice.
all right, so a pro for me, I do really like the worker placement, I guess is what you would call it, the ship placement on, you have different ships that can do different things. They can all go like kind of collect the same stuff. And then where they are matters for what your next placement is, which is a little bit fiddly, but like, I think that's kind of interesting where you really do have Dwellings at the same thing, right? You put your guys down, you got to go within like reach of them or whatever. I think it's like one space in Dwellings, right? But I think that's really cool. And then you do use, kind of the same thing where you put your hats on the Dwellings guys. You do use your transports, I guess, in this to build buildings with, which are, I believe, way harder to get out than they were in Dwellings. I don't remember the hats being hard to get out, but I remember like you have way more of those workers that you could put on the board too.
No, I think they're the same amount.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
Oh, okay.
I just think, I don't
And
know.
the abilities are basically exactly the same too, right?
Well, because in this one they add another element where you have to also get the
Get the
leaders to
yeah,
put in
to do,
there.
okay.
And the other one you just have to have the resources and you cap the guy. Here you have to go get your leaders and do that. Yeah. So it's an extra step, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like getting the exact resources you want in Andromeda's Edge is a little harder than it was in Dwellings.
Well, something I keep forgetting though is you could get the ship for free if you get the upgrade, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and like that's a big pro for me too. I really like the ship upgrades. They're fun. They're all asymmetric. Everyone has different ones, and you can get them. Like I had a module that was giving me them today, but you get them by going a particular track. This game has tracks, and I love tracks. And all the 5 tracks do something different. So the blue one lets you hold more cards in your hand. The red one is the battle track that gives you like some bonus tokens. The yellow one makes your resources worth points at the end of the game. The green one just gives you kind of these other bonus tokens, and the brown track is the one that gives you the ship upgrades. And then the tracks are pretty much the focal point of this game, right? Because you score the points on them multiple times from the events, which I guess I'm going to get into a prawn here. I can't decide. This is the part of it I don't know that I like as well as Dwellings. I just feel like the event card scoring, it can just be wildly swingy. You have to go to like the nebulas to like look at the cards. I've never seen like a close game of Andromeda's Edge yet. And it's because if someone can luck into being able to see the top of a deck on a track they're way ahead on and do that multiple times, it's hard to keep up. And maybe it's because I've been teaching the game so much, I keep forgetting, or like I'll put the card on top and then I won't track who else has like modified that card at a certain point. But I don't know. I just don't like that scoring mechanism.
The last game Jake and I played, we were 9 points apart.
That's
which
pretty
is
good.
and then the next person was another 9 points below.
Yeah, I mean, every game has been 40, 30, 50 points for me.
I kind of like the events. I like the scoring. I mean,
And maybe it's a me problem, not paying attention enough because I'm like too busy explaining rules and teaching the game and things.
Like I've just kind of seen I don't know. At least these last two games, I thought we kind of both, everybody kind of took control of that at one point in time to do a couple things and put their card on top. So it kind of it felt like it kind of evened out in the end. At the end of the day, like the bottom of the track is 5 points, and unless you're like way up at the top, you're not. You're scoring 10 or 12 points. So it's not like it's a huge. It's a 5 point swing. Like when someone says I scored 12 points, it feels really.
But like if
bad.
but the thresholds are 50, 60, 70. I mean, that's a significant chunk of what you need to score. I think today it didn't feel as bad because with us being partners, we were able to look at it and then we were like, okay, well, that's fine for one of us. Let's keep that there. And it wasn't as, I don't know, when it's 4 players or you're all on your own, it just seems like it's a waste to do it when it's early because it's just not going to be there at the end anymore. In all likelihood. And it's so, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that mechanism.
I mean, you just have to make. Every time I explain the game, I make that a focal point to be like, hey, you want to try to control that top card potentially, and I think you just got to pay more attention to it and try to have your voyage ship available when that marker is getting around. But if you're playing a 4-player game, that marker can crank around there pretty quick, and so you don't know when that is exactly going to be.
I just don't understand why it's secret. I just don't know what it benefits from that. I mean, there's a lot of games that have different objectives that change over the course of the game, and if it's there's a lot of games that whatever's the highest on the track is what it is that's going to score. So I don't know why it wants to be face down, or what the thought process behind that was.
I don't know, because it also has an event on it.
Yeah.
Something happens.
I mean, I just think of this game as like being like cuckoo banana bread broken, like across the board. Like, so I'm kind of judging it on a different metric because I don't think there's anything at all balanced about this game. But like, I think that fun is the factor. So like, if you're trying to play like a really balanced space game, like not even TI is the one that you want to play. Like maybe Eclipse. But like, there's like some space like fighty games are just goofy, like Rob's favorite one.
Cosmic Encounter.
Cosmic Encounter, and I think this is like closer to that than to TI or like a hard, Gaia Project or something like that.
Well, I mean,
Beyond
I don't think you have to take advantage of those cards to be successful because honestly, I don't know how often I did that in the first game we played.
Well, and remember that the maximum possible swing from that, other than damaged modules, is 15 points.
Yep.
So, and like how many of them came up over the course of the game? 3?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if somebody happened to get theirs 3 times that another person had never been on, that would be 45 points for them. That that they got that the other person didn't.
I think I'm mostly basing it on the play I had with Campbell, where he just crushed us.
I was naughty with us, but also I was just doing other stuff like, and that was where I think maybe the balance issue is like I felt like the guys I had in that game, like every turn I just got a wild resource basically, and all I had to do was fight, and like I built so many things that I just got awesome at fighting, and I barely ever lost my fights. So then I'm going up on the supremacy track, and they also have a thing where you get to spend a resource to go up like the commerce track too. And so then I was just able to pull commerce and supremacy cards and build commerce and supremacy buildings, and so then I got my 10 points for like 5 buildings too. So that's what's up. It's all just a thing. It's all just a string thing.
Who's got other pros?
I think that even though there's not, I mean, there definitely is variance in that, and I think your faction should probably lean towards the way you're posturing yourself for the actions that you take. But it's nice that there's a huge variety of what factions exist there, and they really do different things. So some of them are just really passive abilities that you can kind of count on. Then the ships that come with those too, and honestly, at least the 2 that I've had thus far have been pretty thematic in what they do to what's on the board. So if you like that and you're trying to really get into what it is that your faction is, I think you can experience that. So I think that there is a lot of versatility in regards to augmenting your play, but I don't know that I want to fully lean on that con because I think there's a backside to that I'll bring up, I guess, when we get to the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I really like all the factions. They all play different, and they are very cool. I like the combat system, even though I lost most of the combats tonight. I like the fact that you can be the underdog and still win. Maybe a little less so now with the targeting thing, which I think would be a pro for most people because it should. To me, when I saw the targeting thing, all I could think of was Jake from Dwellings of Eldervale, where he had a miserable time losing all the combats.
There was one game
I lost every single combat I was in tonight. You did too, right?
Yes.
Even the one I thought I was going to absolutely dominate, I lost.
You lost every single one?
Every single one. Didn't win a single combat.
I didn't jump off the bottom of the track.
Well, then
so.
you two both have done my dwellings game from the past.
And so I thought targeting, which you can up your
and I got second place, by the way.
So
we played teams. Second place.
No, but I got
last.
second place in points.
Yeah, but I gave all my points to Tim. To
That's what happened, right?
How many things did I give to you, Tim, to help boost you up to the way where you wanted to get to?
1.
Yeah, that's what.
What are you talking about?
I gave most of my stuff away to Rob too, so
it was a lot.
It was basically, what can I do to help Tim get further since we were winning?
I think I gave Tim more points than you gave him just by losing so many combats.
Hey, listen, you guys got to do you. Get better at rolling 6s. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, get good. That's what I'm saying.
So what I was saying was my pro is the targeting ability, which is new in this game, where you have a minimum that you can roll depending on how big your army is, which, if you have a bigger army, you probably should have a little advantage. Or you have abilities that up that number. So if your targeting is 3, you get to always reroll any 1s or 2s. So that should, in theory, help make the game in combat be less random a little bit, but it did not help me this evening.
And it also does kind of lead to a weird circumstance where sometimes you're just sitting there rolling the same die over and over and over again because you don't quite hit the number. That
it doesn't happen like as much as when I first saw that. I'm like, oh man, combats are going to take forever, but it doesn't really happen that often, except for when I rolled a bunch of 1s in a row that one time.
Yeah, I mean, I only rolled 1s into 6s 10 times, something like that. It was good.
It was gross.
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, especially on the Raider dice.
Yeah, but I mean, as someone that was on the receiving end of that beating, I'm still giving that as a pro. Yeah. I still like the mechanics. So.
It's fine. It's you want to get into some prawns?
Yeah, I mean, I'm already kind of there.
Yeah, so for me, the rolling thing is all fine. The combat feels a little fiddly with how many dice do I have? Can I spend energy? What's my targeting value? Do I remember to re-roll my dice? Like,
oh yeah, I have a building next to this, which gives me gives
me another dice. Or like, who plays cards win and how that goes around, and it just.
Luckily, it's all on the player aid.
Yeah, but if you don't take it step by step every time, which I don't know, it just feels like you have to really like. Oh no, everybody stop what they're doing. Player order now matters. We got to really who's going in.
Yeah, I mean that definitely depends on your group.
How many dice do you have? Like it feels like it crashes to a halt because you have to. It's not intuitive to just go and be like, all right, my ship rolls 2 dice and they hit on a 10. Like there they go. There's like a lot of steps to it to get to the point where you start rolling dice, and it feels like we missed a bunch the first time we played for sure. So
I do think a neat thing about combat in this is it does allow you and other people to just join fights when they're happening, and it's a nice way that you can move some of your ships out of areas that you might want to reactivate because you can't go into an area you've already activated. So there's a kind of a unique way to wobble into things that you want to through that, even if you're not necessarily invested in winning the combat. But I think that's fun to think about.
What are some of the cons?
I honestly, despite the size of this box and the variety of raiders that come in and the number of factions, I don't really think there's that much to do in this game that would be that much different play to play. Like your experience with who you're playing with is going to be different, and what the factions can do, but like I don't really feel like I could ever play this game and say, well, I'm definitely just going to do this time. And that's going to be a very different experience than what I felt before. So it's weird to say this about a pretty complex game with a ton of stuff, but it just kind of feels really one note to me. And I don't think that there's a lot other than the experience and looking at it, and it's a cool thing to be a part of, but I don't know what would bring me back to want to play this more.
I think it just depends on what tracks you go up. because you can't do them all.
Well, you definitely can't do them all, but honestly, there's 2 or 3 times in each track where you really get something, but outside of that, you really don't. I mean, it's nothings, or it advances the event deck, and then there's like, this just makes your end game thing scoring higher, but a lot of that's based on where you are on the board and whether you're able to build those buildings. And obviously, if you're going high in a track, you should try to build those buildings, but there's not a lot that happens on those tracks. And being far on the track, outside of giving you points, doesn't do a ton for you. You're not really getting juiced up as a result of getting further. And I know Cam talked earlier about a pro that, all turns kind of feel the same, but or all feel good to some extent, but it really just kind of feels like you're gearing up for maybe one really cool thing you can do. In a lot of cases, I'm just going to pop my thing down and take this moon, and that's the end of my turn. And so, I mean, it's fun to bring back your ships and do all that stuff, but that really bogs the game down for everybody else too, because that's time consuming. And you got to think about the order of operations and which ship's going first, and then, okay, I've put a ship here. Where's my energy going to go after it? So it's a weird mix of really, really, really short turns and then really long ones that can get tucked in there. And sometimes, like, let's say you go into an area and you activate something, and that lets you buy cards, and that moves you up tracks, and the tracks get you stuff, and then that also leads to a fight, but then that also led to the event happening. I mean, that whole turn could be 30 minutes probably by the time you're done with all of it. And maybe that's exaggerating a little on the high end, but then the next person might take 15 seconds to put a ship down. So if that's something that's going to bother you, then this is definitely a game that you're going to feel that. But I don't know. Again, that's not my major con. Is just again, I don't really know what else there is to want to do. Like the buildings are more or less the same, other than the fact that where they're going to be. When you're building the big development cards, or the big developments, I mean, they're really cool components. They look nice, but there's nothing super rewarding about putting those out either. Like, it feels good if you get a whole bunch of points because there's stuff by you. I don't know. It doesn't have enough gameplay-wise for me, I think.
Con, it can feel really bad to lose every combat in the game, just like Dwellings of Eldervale.
It can.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what's fun about the Dwellings of Eldervale combat is you can win when you really think you're going to lose, and you can lose when you really think you're going to win. But also, you can be in 5 combats in a row that you should win and then lose all of them. And that can be frustrating.
I think it's less consequential to lose in this than it is in Dwellings. At least it's been a long time since I played Dwellings, but I remember it just like completely. I couldn't do anything on my pullbacks. Well, had nobody alive.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, like, if you're only pulling your ships back 2 or 3 times a game, and you get all your ships destroyed, and so you don't if you don't get to like activate too much of your stuff, that can be really bad. Now. When I played as the Pirates, I lost a few combats, and I think when I did my pullbacks in the game, I didn't get to activate too much stuff because I was using all my energy on extra dice. But like I was already so over the top and like winning tons of stuff too, and so losing a few combats is absolutely not that big of a deal. You should lose a few combats, and you get a card and the cards can be really meaningful. But losing every single one, like my first pullback this game, I had like module set up, and I had to like expend a bunch of Zaz to be able to activate my things, which is like my whole game was based around. Now maybe that's stupid for me because maybe my dudes just shouldn't be in combat, and that's what I should have been. I should have been focusing on like just building stuff really quick, and maybe that's what I decide on the 3rd or 4th play when I get the game. But I don't know, man. Like, all of us now have had games of this or Dwellings where you die all the time, and it doesn't feel good, right?
In Dwellings, can you? In this one, you can repair your ships in the shipyard, so that when you pull them back, they actually activate stuff. Dwellings have that mechanism too. No,
I
think so.
So it's even worse.
Not that I recall.
Yeah.
And then I remember in Dwellings 2, it just kind of. What are the rules about where you play? Can you always just place wherever on your first one, or are you still kind of limited?
No, the placement rules are almost identical, and most of the special abilities are pretty identical too.
Yeah.
as far as the different ships and different classes in the game.
You know, this is definitely not a con because it's purely your playstyle, but I mean, this is a very, very tactical game, more so than a strategic game. So I think that is something that you should consider again. Again, I guess the retail one is not overly that expensive, so maybe it's not going to require the investment that this has, but it is very much reacting to what is available and what you're able to do from where you go. So it definitely leans pretty heavily in that side of it.
You've never been to space, obviously, because all sorts of crazy things can happen when you're in space.
I mean, there's
Have you
literally
been to
like
space?
nothing in
Yeah,
there.
dude. I'm an astronaut for SpaceX.
Yeah, it would be
I was in the thing they
mind-boggling
caught
for
a
you to
couple
run
days
into
ago.
something.
What'd you say?
That's why
I
it's
said-
called space.
Yeah, like there's like literally nothing there. It would be astronomical for you to like even hit things. Unless you
No,
were
there's
directed
stuff
at
up
them.
there. I was up there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, moon men.
yeah, the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Moon men were there.
Eventually, there's going to be enough garbage orbiting Earth that we can't actually get into space.
There you
so.
go. Perfect.
That's like 20 years away. Who cares?
Yeah. Who's got other cons? Rob, you got any cons?
You know, I'm going to give this the con that the opposite comment I gave for Dwellings. So Dwellings, when I reviewed that, I couldn't quite pin my finger on what I liked so much about it, except for it was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
And this game's just not as fun as Dwellings was for me. I get what Jake says with the turn structure. I don't know what takes so long on turns. I don't get it. Also on pullback turns, I don't know why people just can't play when people are pulling stuff back.
Well, sometimes when you pull stuff back, you take
get
bumps,
cards,
like
modules.
It could pop out an
I mean,
event.
maybe, but like you can work around that.
Well, there were a lot of times in this game where we had to be like,
We had
all
to-
right, well, what actually happened 3 turns ago?
Right.
Because that needs to be there.
So I don't know. The game, the expansion thing came with a 5th player. God no. I think like 3 players is probably where this is at. Like 4 is even maybe a little too. Like our game was only like 2 hours long, like a little over 2 hours, but it felt so much longer than that.
I would say even with our 3-player game, I thought it felt way too long. I was like, we should have played 60 points instead of 70. But it did end up that like I think both of us hit like 68 points. And then it took like 4 turns
We
for us
just
to
couldn't get points.
to get
Oh, really?
Yeah,
You
pop
You know
over
what?
to 70.
It didn't feel too long at the lower point total, and I think we knew who was going to win already at a lower point total today. So maybe you just play at the lower point total.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every time I played at 50, everyone has crossed 50 and gone past 60 that same turn. So that's why I was like, just play to 70. Like, who cares?
I did the same thing today, I think.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think the different point things are being 10 points apart, and when you're scoring 10 points at the end of the game for things like
What happened in our game was we came up short, and then it was like 30 minutes before any of us popped over the top.
Dang.
that's wild.
Yeah.
Because we both like reset, and
Yeah.
then there literally were not ways for us to
Also,
go past.
like, and maybe I just need more plays of it to get better at it, but I feel like I did so much more the first time I played this game than the last 2 times I've played it. Like, the game's not, even though like it feels too long, I don't feel like it's long enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how your first game was, but like, is there a chance that we've just gotten better at it or whatever, where like people are popping over that point total? Because it could just be. I mean, you go score a 10-point building, and that's 1/5
I know.
of what you played. Like
I get it.
Yeah, so I don't know. Anybody else any cons?
I mean, if I was expecting this game to be like more of an actual 4X, then I think I'd have a lot. But it's more just like kind of
It's a Euro game.
yeah, it's like a Euro game, but like a dice chucker too at the same time.
But I mean, it's not really a Euro game, and how potentially negative the interaction is, and how much that can stop you from doing the things that you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's a Euro dice chucker hybrid. It's like it's not fully Euro, it's not fully dice chucker. It's kind of like Euro Ameritrash.
Yeah, I mean, the only real places besides the
Euro
special
trash
tiles
is what you call it.
that we were, like the only places that you really actually need to be after you've already gone there is if you're going to build a building, right? Everything else doesn't really matter.
If somebody said, I like Euros, would you say you should play Andromeda's Edge?
No, but I wouldn't also say that it's like a dudes on a map game.
I think people who like dudes on a map game are going to like this way more than somebody who likes Euro
Yeah, I agree with
games.
Jake on that. I think this is more like trashy than Euro, but I think it is Euro-y in that like
You're
it's-
building a little engine and
then
your modules.
then, like it's
and-
kind of worker placement, but like the workers can fight. It's like kind of like Scythe, honestly, where Scythe is kind of Euro trash. So
It's a lot less fighting in Scythe.
yeah, and it's all more Euro-y.
Right.
You know, I'm saying like Scythe is highbrow Euro trash, Andromeda's Edge is lowbrow Euro trash. So like Scythe is like Croatia, Andromeda's Edge is like Albania.
Albania does have a pretty baller flag, though.
Yeah, that's true. I actually don't know what flag that is. Jake, could you describe it for me?
It's got like a double-headed dragon, so it's
Oh,
it's
yeah, I
red
know-
and
yeah,
black
okay,
in the
I know
middle, and
that
the
one.
dragon split the
Yeah.
other way.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Any more cons? Rob, you want to hit us with a 0 Boeing and a 3 Boeing game and what the rundown is?
Here on the Board Boys podcast, we have a 3 Boeing rating scale, 0 being the worst, 3 being the best. One time only you can give a 4 Boeing rating. Cam lost his chance on Botanicus last week.
It wasn't 4 Boeings.
And a 0 Boeing game of Andromeda's Edge is you're the ET faction and you didn't get any Reese's Pieces and the scary guys in the suits grabbed you up. Sorry, Jake. I know you have traumatic
I was
ET
just going to say,
feelings.
you didn't need to say anything else with 0 Boeing other than just ET. That maxed out the 0 Boeings right there.
So that movie scares you, huh?
As a child, that was the vast majority of my nightmares was ET. Vast majority.
Really?
Oh,
This is
yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
I had some students at one of my former schools who bought a little stuffed ET and hid it in various places in my room. When I don't know why I ever told them that was the real mistake, but
That's
ET
on-
was
that's on you.
terrifying.
I
for
think
me,
all
yeah.
of my nightmares were about being kidnapped in one way or another.
Tim, what were your childhood nightmares?
Nightmare on Elm Street was the one that, yeah.
Rob?
I have a recurring dream where I'm fighting zombies on my front yard and it's really foggy when I was a kid. I just remember having that dream a lot. I don't know.
Did you crush them?
I think so.
You just-
I'm still here.
Yeah.
But so was that scary to you or is that cool to you?
I don't know that I don't think I've ever woken up from a dream and like been afraid. I don't remember most of my dreams, so
I very rarely remember dreams now, but ET was bad.
I remember like one dream a year, and but I like all of the scary dreams I kind of from when I was a kid. I remember, but the one I remember the most is my mom. Like in my dream, my mom went into the store for a minute. I'm like 5 or 6, and she's like, "I'm gonna go in there. Don't let anybody in the car. Lock the door or whatever. Keep it running." And she's just going in for a second. I'm probably older than 5, like maybe 7. Like the age where you could leave a kid in the car for 3 or 4 minutes. And then a strange woman gets in the car and like locks me in. And she's like, "You're my kid now," or something like that.
Didn't you lock the door?
Yeah, I did. But it's a bad dream.
Oh.
So, and then I look to get out of the car, and the whole wall of the door is just like doohickeys and gadgets, and like I can't tell which one the lock is, and drives off, and I'm like, "Mom," and I woke up and started crying. I remember that real well.
I read a book recently where that was basically the plot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's a pretty coherent nightmare, right? That's like something that could really happen until the thing right at the end. Tall blonde lady wearing dark sunglasses kidnapped me. So it wasn't like, at least it wasn't like a pervert. I think it was like a maybe I was going into like,
That you know of.
well, I mean, it could have been a trafficking thing like afterwards, but anyway.
the 3 Boeing game of Andromeda's Edge. Where am I right now?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hit us with the 3 Boeing. Yeah.
I had a story to tell. I had to get off my chest.
I think it's probably
Cam knows where the unlock button is.
yeah, Cam knows. And I have 3D printed and created my own little spaceship monster sounds for these bases.
You should do that.
I can just go grab the other monster
Yeah,
ones.
you should
and put
also do
them on
that.
there.
Yeah.
And then we just play with toys on the table for a while.
Yeah. Everybody rolls 6s.
Yeah. I'll go first. For me, Andromeda's Edge, I don't know. This is one that I'm actually looking at checking out the solo mode to it because unlike Jake, I do kind of like the puzzle of it and like the gameplay, and I think it's fun. I also think there's enough different little modules that can kind of change things up. I think I wasn't a big fan of. I mean, it was kind of fun playing teams because playing teams is fun, but I didn't really feel like it was more like it was someone I could borrow something from. Like we were more like neighbors. And maybe that's why we lost Campbell.
Yeah.
I was just borrowing a cup of sugar from you once in
Yeah.
a while.
Tim and I were just double duking out all the battles together. So.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
basically like, Jake, give me
We
half
should have
your
gone
house.
and do that.
But like we
Yeah.
tried that a couple times, Campbell, and we lost together in
Where
fights.
we shouldn't have lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the thing tonight. Like all those little cards and targeting just killed me.
Yeah. So I don't know. I like the changes. Like it's different enough from Dwellings that I'm glad I got it and tried it. Ultimately, am I going to keep both? I don't know. If I were to get rid of one right now, I think it might be Andromeda's Edge because I think it's easier to play Dwellings of Elder Vale and I get a similar-ish feeling and it doesn't have the card scoring I don't like. But I think I want to play it more with fewer players. Like I don't think I'm into the 4-player zone on this one. I'm going to go 2 Boings for Andromeda's Edge.
I had a really fun time playing this game. I got really worked up over getting my butt kicked a bunch of times. And I still did like okay, and I still was the king of a couple tracks, and like so that was fun. I would play this game anytime. When we were finishing, I was like, maybe I need to get this. And I think I like this more than Dwellings of Elder Vale. I don't remember Dwellings as much now, but like as I think back to the vibe of Dwellings of Elder Vale, I like that more. So maybe I like that game more. I don't know. We'll find out next time I play Dwellings of Elder Vale. For now, whichever one of these 2 games I like more gets a 2.5 and the other one gets a 2.
Well, let's play it soon.
Yeah.
I'd like to play it again too. It's been way too long.
Yeah. And maybe this one's a 2, maybe this one's a 2.5.
What are you giving it?
Today 2. I'll let you know after Dwellings if it has bumped up. If in my estimation this one's better.
We should just get 2 tables going at the same time, and when it's not your turn in Dwellings of Elder Vale, you can take your turn in Andromeda's Edge.
Yeah.
It's kind of like chess boxing.
I can go next. I was looking forward to playing this. Again, the last time I played Dwellings, it was just a catastrophe of everything bad possibly happening, and so I had wanted to play it again ever since that. I think just ultimately these games aren't for me, and I just don't really like it that much. It's not that a game that I wouldn't play. I mean, it's certainly not a point where I would ever say no, I definitely don't want to play that. But it's just not something that I would ever want to intentionally get to the table, I guess. So I think it's just a 1.5 for me.
I hope you accidentally get it to the table sometime
Yeah.
instead of intentionally.
Yep.
All right, and I'll wrap us up here. I think this game is fine. It's fine. It's fun. I would play it anytime you want. Even rolling very hot for both myself and the monsters was probably the most fun of the whole game.
There was a lot of laughs and
Yeah,
fun happening
yeah.
in that.
I mean,
Yeah.
like-
Rage-inducing,
but on the other side of that, like
also funny.
it didn't feel good for me to do it either. You know what I'm saying? Like they were so mad. This is the most mad I've seen Cam.
some of the "Are you kidding me?" even came from Tim when one turned to 6s. on
So
mixed
it's
rolls.
not rage-inducing when it's versus an opponent. It is super, like, just insane rage-inducing when it's versus an enemy that you're just supposed to be able to like when you gather enough to like probably take out the bad guy, and then like they just roll a thing that you can't even like is perfect. And that feels bad. Like if when you guys, I raged out when I fought you guys because it was like a David and Goliath situation, and I should have won it. And then you just had all these cards that made it so I didn't win it.
So it went to the 5th or 6th die tiebreaker in that.
Yeah, and that was rage inducing but fun, and like I didn't feel like bad about like actually like losing the fight. I more just felt bad. I was like felt frustrated, like, hey, what can I even do? And then we realized we were playing a rule wrong, and it was like, oh, that rule's fine actually. But when we fought that monster, and Rob and I had like a bunch of dice each, and then you just rolled 4 6s.
I rolled 4 6s.
Yeah, that was like, this game is so unrealistic.
Just be clear. I rolled 2 6s, a 2 and a 1, re-rolled the 2 and a 1, and rolled a 6 and a 1, and then re-rolled the 1 into a 6, and it was probably the greatest moment of my life.
Tim and I were rolling laughing while both of them were raging pretty hard.
The 2 guys, you were not paying that much attention until you finished your roll, and then you looked over and you're like, oh my god. So for me, it's 2 Boings. I think it's fine. It's a game I would play. I do really like it. It is what it is. I don't know. If you want to play it, I play it. It's not something that I would be like, let's play.
You say a lot of contradictory things when you're talking about games. You say
But
it's fine,
it's fine.
and then minutes later, I really like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Those aren't the same things.
I mean, I think they're the same thing.
Fine, and I
Yeah.
really like it.
I like it. It's fine. You know, like I don't hate it.
So, for in case we're not doing a good segue to the bumper dump here, Rob just had some food go down the wrong pipe in a way that wasn't an emergency, but was the most serious, I think, thing that can happen that's not an emergency.
It was emergency adjacent. Let's say
Yeah.
that.
I'm glad you guys were here and you cared so much. I love it.
I was ready to jump in for that. Heimlich maneuver
Well,
whenever
you were
needed
like,
it.
you were like, I'm okay, but like I'm almost not okay, and we're like, okay, well, just tell us if you're not okay, and we'll immediately take you to the hospital or give you the Heimlich or something.
I'll tell you my safe word later, Cam.
You can hear it in Rob's voice.
He is now a jazz singer.
Rib it up, doop a dope dope. I can't scat. Can you guys scat?
I mean, I can only
Tim is laughing because scat has more than one.
I can only do the scat man scat, and that's not really scatting. It's not scatting if you steal someone else's scat.
Yeah, but
right?
can you do what Scatman John does in like the middle of it? Because like everybody can go like what like the one dude, like the Euro dude is doing like beep pop 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 beep pop pop, but you can't do the thing where he comes in and he's like, you know what I'm saying, when the Scatman comes in.
Did you do a hay batter in there?
Hey, better.
Swing better.
All right, ready to go.
Yeah, I was going.
Oh, this
is the podcast.
Oh, so yeah, it seems about right. All right, so on the Board Boys podcast, we like to look 1 year in the past at the bumper dump. This bumper dump was the White Castle. The White Castle. So it was a 8.0 for 1011.
Huge bump, and I think it's still an 8.0.
It's an 8.1 right
Ooh.
now. 8.1.
How often do games go up when we look at it, like in the value a year
Is
later?
that game in the top 100?
I don't think so, but it's got to be close.
Top 200 probably.
Top 300 is my guess.
121.
Oh,
Let's get close.
that's probably going to make top 100.
Getting close. Sweet. So if you would like to leave us some feedback on it, you can do so at the Board Game Geek Guild, which you find through the website. We played this not that long ago, a couple months ago.
Yep.
I played it fairly recently too.
It still rips. It's
It's
great
such
game.
a good game.
I played the solo version too.
Did you?
I haven't tried that yet.
It was good.
What's the expansion do?
I don't know. It doesn't fit in the box. I'm not looking at it.
Yeah, I mean the game itself doesn't fit in the box.
The
so.
matcha expansion. I heard Rolling Dice and Taking Names talk about it. I don't remember anything they said except for not essential. And so to me, like the last not essential expansion I bought was Barcelona. I'm like, I don't know that I ever really need to play with that. So if I heard somebody say, "Oh my gosh, I'll never play White Castle without that expansion again," I'd probably check it out. But now, like if I get a chance to, sure I will. But I'm not going to go seek it.
It's so good and so tight with the 9 actions, and you just like I don't know what else it needs.
I agree, and
Especially if it doesn't fit in the box.
the time that it takes to play that game and how much strategic depth you get to think about in that it's really unmatched. I think
I don't know. You can bang out the solo game in like 20 minutes.
I should try that for sure.
We can bang out a 3-player game in 20 minutes.
That's true.
All right, so Jeremy Dobler, another one that I've only played once. I love the theming in DeVere Productions, so I bought my own copy, but alas, it's still on his shelf of shame. It said 1.5 boings. It's been a little while since he played it, so maybe 2 because he does own it. Christopher Boat, DeVere has been mastering the art of putting out games that are pretty good and high-quality compact package. If White Castle was produced by Queen Games, it would cost twice as much and be in a box 4 times the size. You give it 2.5 boings, but his rating is based wholly on the packaging, not just the gameplay. Based on the whole package, not just the gameplay. And then BJ from Board Game Gumbo. In about a year, I played Red Cathedral, 3-Ring Circus, and White Castle. As much as I love the first 2, the White Castle has become his favorite. The turns are snappy. The combos are bubble, rapping, popping good, and it's really crunchy. I would say 2.5 boings, but Cam will just edit this one out. So
just looking quick, the matcha gives you something to do with the tea ceremony, and it basically gives you another. It looks like it's green dice, and another row of peeps, and they're just like new actions and new ways to score them. So it's like a 4th thing to score.
Okay. Cool. Well, that'll wrap it up for the bumper dump.
By the way, I'm not going to edit whatever BJ said out. Just
Yeah,
so
you
know.
never do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because why would I?
It's probably his 4-point game. 4.5 points, I think, is BJ.
I'm going to see BJ next week. It'll be good. I don't believe anything. Don't believe anything that comes out of his mouth.
True. Although that'll be in the past by the time people hear this.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's called BJception. It's how that works.
BJception. Yeah. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Board Boys Podcast, Season 15, Episode 9, Andromeda's Edge. Go to theboardboys.com. Check out all our content there. You can go to the Facebook. You can go to the Instagram, the Discord. You can do the Patreon if you want. Leave us a 5-star iTunes review. Share it with your friends. Spread the Board Boys love. I'd like to thank our patrons now, if I could find them in my phone. A little behind-the-scenes action here for you guys. They are Hammond McDonough, BJ from Board Game Gumbo, Timothy Crisco, Shifty Teeth, Jeff Gray, Andre Bosch, Braden Dowdy, Rob Cooper, Richard Lane, Matt Kelly, Jeremy Thoman, and Dom Lankin. I'm glad I lived through this episode, and until next time, I hope you like board games.
And as the man himself, DJ Steve Walsh is known for saying, boing, boing, boing. DJ Steve Walsh.
Hey, I'm DJ Steve Walsh.
Yeah, it's me, DJ Steve Walsh.
He told me a heart can smile if it's filled with tears. Growing up, I thought it's all gone. Now it comes back to me again. Get to uniform, collect calls that I can't explain. All the things I ruined, abandoned, they come back to me. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. He told me for those who've been drowned, there is no refrain. With one and only you, the gospel, I do what I can. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Holding on together, I try to set the night on fire. Though I've been trying to lose it all before it's gone. But whatever comes, a high can smile if it's filled with tears. I've been waiting, all I gotta do is call. Diving deeper, would you get me out of this despair? Though I've been trying to lose it all before it's gone. But whatever comes, a high can smile if it's filled with tears. I've been waiting, all I gotta do is call. Diving deeper, would you get me out of this despair? Though I've been trying to lose it all before it's gone. Whatever comes, a high can smile if it's filled with tears. I've been waiting, all I gotta do is call. Diving deeper, would you get me out of this despair?